A very good morning to you all and a warm welcome to this edition of Views, People and News on KFM. This Saturday, the 22nd of February 2025. My name is Judith Atim and it's a pleasure to have you. You can also follow this conversation by watching us on our audiovisual platform on www.kfm.co.ug. That's where we're streaming. Today we are talking about the politics, law and contestation in Dr. Kizza Besigye's trial. And I'm pleased to be joined, first of all, by Honorable Alice Alaso, Secretary General of the Alliance for National Transformation. I'll be letting you know my other guests as they walk in. I'm told they're just around the corner. Honorable Alaso, good morning.
Good morning to you, and thank you for inviting me. It's been a while.
Always a pleasure having you.
And good morning, listeners. I pray that you all keep well and keep safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Of course, my other guest has just walked in, but I'm going to give him a minute to catch his breath. I know we have some good stairs that actually get people drained. But as he settles down, I'll just take you through some of the highlights of the week, and then I'll give you each an opportunity to just pick one or two issues that you want to respond to. Of course, the biggest issue we had this week is from court, where Dr. Kizza Besigye, face of opposition and a four-time presidential candidate, was yesterday arraigned in Nakawa Chief Magistrates Court, where he was charged with treason alongside his colleague Haji Obeid Lutale Kamulegea and UPDF Captain Dennis Oola. This was after spending 90 days in prison. They were remanded until the 7th of March. Besigye, who was abducted from Nairobi, Kenya on the 23rd of November last year, has previously appeared very frail on a number of court appearances following his 8-day hunger strike. But yesterday, after appearing before the civil court, he called off his hunger strike. On Monday, the National Unity Platform Party's head of mobilization, Fred Nyanzi Sentamu, was abducted at gunpoint from Mulago. And a day after, 4 members of the party's Electoral Management Committee were also abducted and whisked away by security operatives. On Thursday night, 2 of them were reportedly dumped at the Special Investigations Unit in Chireka after interrogation. On Wednesday, the NUP also organized prayers for opposition members who are in prison, and this was attended by various political leaders, activists, as well as the former Minister for Constitutional Affairs in Kenya, Martha Karua, who is also part of Dr. Kizza Besigye's legal team. But during the prayers, some members of the NUP party, especially the youthful ones who are commonly referred to as foot soldiers, were arrested. And also yesterday, that's Friday, the NUP headquarters at Makerere Kavule was sealed off by security officers who reportedly broke into the premises and conducted a search on allegations that the party has been conducting military drills. Still on Monday this week, it emerged that the UPDF had deployed in Bunia, an eastern town of the Democratic Republic of Congo, to counter and avert deadly violence by Congolese militia groups. UPDF chiefs confirmed that Uganda's army and the DRC military, the FADC, had entered into an agreement on a joint deployment in Bunia, the capital of Ituri province. And yesterday, Uganda's Chief of Defense Forces, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, attended a high-level meeting of East African Community military chiefs held in Nairobi, Kenya. The meeting was geared at addressing the escalating crisis in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, where ongoing conflict has threatened regional security. The meeting of the military chiefs follows directives from the joint EAC SADC Heads of State Summit held on February 8th, 2025 in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Still within the continent, Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa this week reiterated his commitment to adhering to the country's constitution, stating that he will not seek to extend his term beyond 2028 adding that the country and the party will move on by electing his successor. In response to a journalist's question, Mnangagwa cited his intention to remain a constitutionalist and expressed confidence that Zimbabwe will continue to thrive after his departure. Mnangagwa's comments come amid speculation about his plans for the future, with some members within the ruling ZANU-PF party pushing for him to stay on beyond his 2-term limit. And on a rather sad note, Kenyans are mourning the passing on of former Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission chairperson Wafula Chebukati, who died on Thursday night. He had been admitted to a hospital in Nairobi, where he had been undergoing treatment for about a week. The cause of the 64-year-old Chebukati's death remains a private matter, but he presided over the 2017 and 2022 general elections, and he retired in January 2023. These are the highlights of the week, the key events. A lot of things happened, but we just zeroed in on a few. But also, let me take this opportunity to now welcome my guest, who I believe has had a moment to catch his breath. Honorable Alex Brandon Kintu, Member of Parliament for Kagoma North in Jinja, is also the spokesperson of the NRM Parliamentary Caucus. Honorable, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, listeners.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a very great honor that you have actually opened an opportunity for me to have a platform with the Honorable Alaso, one of the greatest sober politicians that we have in this country, and one of the few that have motivated us actually to give a contribution by offering ourselves to serve at the policy formulation. I'm very much humbled.
Thank you, Honorable, and we do appreciate you for making time. I know it's been quite a busy season, and yesterday was very, very busy, and you look quite tired, but you will be telling us a little bit. We are going to delve into that, and I'm really happy that you took time to join us. We do appreciate. And my other guest is also just around the corner. We'll be letting you know as soon as he walks in. So, Honorables, just your quick thoughts. Randomly pick any of the issue that I raised and just one or two, and give your comments in about 3 minutes each. I'll start with you, Honorable Alaso.
Thank you. Please let me just, on a very personal note again, Teso is in mourning. And mourning George Okurapa, one of our very big and gallant sons who lived almost all his life in exile. And let me convey my very sincere condolences to Mrs. Okurapa and the family, given that I'm not able to make it this morning. And I pray that God will comfort them. And again, my prayer, as I did in church the other day, was simply to ask that those in power now and those who will take over power to please ensure that this country provides room for all of us. We can all share Uganda despite our dissenting views. And in the same vein, to mourn my senior, our elder, distinguished public servant of this country, the late IGP George Kosio Domel, whose body I believe arrived yesterday, again to send condolences to the children, and I know some of them personally, just to pray that God will comfort them. It's a difficult time for the country, but we pray that as we journey along, we all find solace in God. Now back to the issues you have asked. Most of these issues are very, very related, so maybe I'll make a general comment. First of all, on issues of Dr. Besigye, and finally that he was charged and court produced and charged for treason. I mean, Dr. Besigye has been charged for every other thing. I don't think even this is the first treason thing. There was treason, there was rape, there was misprision of treason, there was all manner of things. So he's been through all that, and I don't think it surprises him. What comes to us is, as people who are active on the political scene, is really that finally we believe that due process will be followed. I even wonder why government was killing on Dr. Besigye on a defunct court-martial whatever, custody. Even the Supreme Court of the land says this thing is no longer working, and then government, So now let government demonstrate. I hear people, even yesterday I was listening to a talk show here, I hear people saying we have evidence. You are not the judges in the land. There are people with a full mandate to process that evidence, and now let them go and process it. And no wonder Dr. Besigye was quick to now leave his hunger strike. I think he was fighting for the due process of law. Mm-hmm. And so let's see how it unfolds out there. The issues at the NUPED quarters, it's very unfortunate that instead of managing society and listening to the issues, the government of Uganda is beginning to really become a terror to its citizens. Because some of those fellows, I was there for that prayer thing, missing persons. You even find, I am a respecter of humanity, but for lack of a better expression, you find people with no identity, literally no identity, from Moyo, from Jumani Kalangala, where young boys, you find their wife is a 24-year-old pregnant and missing. And you ask yourself, really, these nameless, identityless people, what on earth, what kind of threat do they constitute? I think that our government should stop being a threat to its own citizens. What we are seeing, this government prides itself of ushering in a new constitutional era, from which they have since departed, and now those kidnaps, missing persons, disappearances are very typical of the Amin era. That is the time it used to be. So how different is the NRM now? They are behaving, they are actually benchmarking from the Amin era, and I thought that's unacceptable. I talked whenever I found it easy to share with General Aronda when he was alive on the corridors of Parliament. And I told him, every time you come so hard on citizens, you also make it very hard. They harden. It becomes hard to police them in a civil way. Mm-hmm. So you've reached tear gas, you've abandoned that. Rubber bullets, you've abandoned that. Now you've live bullets, you are past that. Now kidnaps and what. So what else will you use for policing this country? I still believe that it doesn't matter what a person is charged with. Let them be arrested. What is wrong with walking to NUP, a policeman with an arrest warrant, and just put it in front of a person and policeman X, and you are under arrest? And then you take, why would I pass there yesterday? It was horrible. In fact, those days when we used to cry that government, please intervene on Konyi, we couldn't see a presence like that. When my people were in the camps and whatever, we couldn't see such an intervention. But here in Kavule, if you passed Kavule yesterday, the last time I saw something like that was in my election of 2016. That's the kind of deployment in one spot. Very, very intimidating. And I keep thinking, and then there are all these characters, They're not putting on uniform. We have a police system in this country. But you bring hundreds of gun-wielding men, plain clothed. What has happened with our police force? Where are the uniformed agencies that are mandated and paid by the citizens of Uganda? So anybody now who has guns there can walk in here and arrest the honorable. You say, Brandon, you are done. Honorable, you are done. Stand up. And what will he say? Because it's becoming the norm. The reason behind identifying yourself, the reason behind uniform, the reason behind established procedure is so that people don't take advantage of unsuspecting, ordinary citizens. But I found it it's very sad for this country that we've sunk so low. President Mnangagwa should be celebrated because he has been under pressure also by ZANU-PF and others to stay. But I think that is something that African leaders, these countries will continue. Like Uganda, it doesn't matter how much President Museveni will want to stay, he will go. And this Uganda will remain. Even if he processes his next hair, this country will outlive the hair. So the best we can do is to create stability. And so for me, I applaud him. As for the UPDF in Bunia, I think Honorable Kintu should tell us, did you people authorize the UPDF? The Constitution says if we are deploying out of our boundaries, you should have authorization. I follow you people in the House. I have not heard so much about that, but you can educate us. As for Chebukati, unfortunately, he leaves behind a lot of controversies. Now it's now a controversial legacy. I believe that it's unfortunate. I don't know what circumstances surround this death, but the legacy, the contestation he leaves behind. I believe he watched the Gen Z protests, and I believe he has watched the trajectory, the democratic trajectory his country is taking. Even as he goes to rest, he may be turning in his grave.
Thank you. Thank you for your thoughts. And of course, we also do commiserate with the fallen sons of Teso, the two gentlemen who just passed on recently. Our condolences to their families and to the people of Teso and to the country at large. Honorable Kintu, your quick thoughts.
I also joined the Honorable Alaso. There is, I think, also a former IGP that was an IGP probably before I was born. From Toro. Yes.
Yes, he also passed on.
Yeah, he also passed on. So we also pay condolences. The family and the country. It's always very nice and challenging if such men and women go and they leave a beautiful talk. I remember Odomel, when I was still, I think, growing, he put a price that if anyone would bring him the head of Kony, he would give him 5 million. And I think by then 5 million was really a big deal. But he made a statement in a way of championing democracy in the country. Save for the rest that the Honorable has commented, I don't think I'll be here to retaliate what she said, because some of these are facts unless you don't live in the country. She just popped a question, I think, about the deployment. I happen to sit on the Committee of Defense and Internal Affairs, and those are the questions that we've been facing, because this is a constitutional mandate, it's clear, and as a member of parliament, I sought to protect and defend the constitution. So many things might happen, but how do we try to conform and probably put things right in this crying country? But we also, as citizens, we talk about human rights. I would say that I would like to congratulate the Dr. Kizza Besigye, because Dr. Besigye is a very different species of a person. Like the Honorable says, he has been all through. Is this man, sometimes you wonder, he's not a poor man. Some of us people would say you're joining politics for money, but he's a well-established person. But he goes beyond. He does a very big sacrifice for this country. He would have chosen to stay outside the country. But then he fought for his right. And I think sometimes I was studying to become a priest. So I would have some bit of that inner person saying, he said, I will not eat till I'm tried in the civilian court. And I want to congratulate him that really came. You would look at this man and say, Brandon, I can't do that. If, like Honorable Ali says, if they pick me and they force me that say this to leave you, even if it's not true, I will say it. But this is a man who stands by the truth. And we really pray and hope that those that are alleging, I also had statements, Honorable, somebody was on the TV accusing that he has information, he has audios. Now that there is a civilian court, let these people come, and I pray that our judiciary does a speedy trial, because this is practically very ugly. You cannot discuss it. You cannot. There are certain people that are supposed to be treated with a very high regard in this country, because they have a great contribution They came here, they fought, so we hope to hold them with regard. And as Parliament, if you've been watching us, we stood. We have been demanding. Because we are also candidates. Yesterday when we were in the caucus, we were also mindful that we would be candidates of the General Court Martial. So as we do legislation, we ought to be. The Public Management Act that the Honorable Alaso and his colleagues did, one of them became a victim of it, and yet was one of the biggest, I think, sponsor of the bill. So as Parliament, so as members of Parliament, and also because for us, we may not have a rich experience like the Honorables have, but we are learning on job, and we want also to be talked about. I feel a very big challenge when people are giving references of Parliament. They say the then Parliament, which I used also to watch from the garage, and then this Parliament. Sometimes I feel bad that I don't want to introduce myself as a member of Parliament. How can I get associated to something?
How do you feel when people call you honorable? Do you feel you deserve the title?
It depends on where. If you called me here because I would present my issues honorably, I would feel it good. But down there, where people are watching in Chiembe and they see what happens in the House and the quality of our legislation vis-a-vis the Honorable Alaso's where the Parliament, if a woman would stand on a microphone, you'd feel, this is a people's representative. And I still hold that. Because if you would invite, actually when I was supposed to go to Busoga, but when I saw that I had an opportunity to have a discussion with the Honorable, I told him, I'll definitely come. So that makes that these people have done a contribution. So as members of Parliament, we are mindful, because we look ugly, but we want to do something better that can bring that house to sanity. So the rest that the Honorable talked about is the same. That's the fact. People were kidnapped. I'm very happy that yesterday the spokesperson of government came out to say that they did not kidnap Chairman Nyanza and the rest, that they arrested them. But then we are saying, produce them to court, and why should it take, and these are the discussions we had yesterday in the court, why should it take 5 days when you are holding people? And what do we answer? I'm a spokesperson of the NRM, I love my party, but I wouldn't be happy to defend the defendables, because it's a constitution. You first denying you don't have somebody, then after the public demand and outcry, you come out, actually we did not kidnap them, we arrested them, and we have them because of ABCD. So such are ugly situations, but this is our Uganda, and we ought to have a commitment of patriotism and also do things that will respect and also reflect our motto, for God and my country.
Thank you very much. I think it's time for us to take a break, and then when we return, we now delve into the discussion, the politics, the law contestations in Dr. Kizza Besigye's trial. This is VPN. Welcome back from the break. It's 9:34 a.m. It is still VPN, that's Views, People and News. My name is Judith Atim. And, of course, you can watch this conversation, like I earlier said. Just log on to www.kfm.co.ug. That's our audiovisual platform. And now the conversation begins. The politics, the law, the contestation in Dr. Kizza Besigye trial. And Honorable Kintu, let us start, of course, with the issues that transpired in caucus yesterday. I know we've read the statement that was, the resolution that was signed by Honorable Hamson Obua. We've seen it all on social media. But just for the benefit of our listeners who perhaps are behind the news, I could have read it, but I want to hear it. I want them to hear it from you, since you were physically present at that meeting yesterday.
The meeting yesterday was an extraordinary caucus. We made the resolutions in the NRM that every first Friday of the month we caucus. And the reason as to why we caucus, we have tried to change the level of legislation in Parliament, especially with the members of the NRM. We designate members on different committees, and I ought to be part, because I work under the lead of government business, Office of the Government Chief Whip, whipping the NRM members of Parliament. So we wanted to check out their performance, what have you done, and if you applied for a committee, have you been able to use the mandate to do services to your country and your constituency? So that has been a routine. And previously, the president started his presidential tour on parish development model. We had a pause on the caucus meeting. So the last caucus meeting, which was within our plan, happened to be held after the Supreme Court ruling. So we put aside all the issues because this was a very public outcry. We also got to know and understand deeper on how the court-martial operates. So when we had that caucus, we resolved that this caucus we had yesterday would have it as an extraordinary, specifically to address and also reflect on the Supreme Court ruling. I want to make it clear that we did not go to Entebbe to alter with the Supreme Court ruling. We simply went to confirm. We went to abide with the guidelines. And if you would see, only 2 or 3 resolutions, but the rest that the Supreme Court aligned with the court-martial, we said that is all, because this is the Supreme Court, and Parliament has no mandate to alter a ruling of the Supreme Court. And the areas to address that was not actually there was the misconduct. So we resolved and agreed in the caucus, and this now will be our position if this bill comes to Parliament for debate, that any serving officer that will misconduct himself, according to how they call it misconduct, probably if somebody buttons a button halfway, if in the UPDF that's wrong and it's criminal, that person will be tried in the general court-martial. But this person, which was not there, and this was the recommendation of the Supreme Court, that the court-martial did not have a provision of appeal. If you sentenced, and even the way they would do things, remember the Council Aaron was arrested in the morning at 3 o'clock. He's sentenced to 9 months in prison. So we when the Attorney General came, we said, let's make proposal, because this bill was before my committee where I sit, and we were supposed to go to Nairobi for benchmark. But since the Supreme Court had quashed the amendment.
So that's the Defense Committee.
Yeah, the Defense Committee. So we did not even... The UPDF amendment. So we did not even go. So this also came an opportunity that Supreme Court, the judgment came, and said, oh, let's use this opportunity now to look at it. So in this provision, this military officer, because the military people are also suffering, they now have a right to appeal in the civilian courts. If the minister, the sponsor of the bill, brings it and we discuss. So we put that provision. And that was also a recommendation from the Supreme Court. And then also the appealing, actually, that was the most important. And then it comes to the issue of civilian. We're like, who is a civilian that holds a firearm? Now, we have, because these are only our proposals, we still have members, and I believe in our committee we shall have public opinion, that a civilian who is found in possession of something to do with firearm, they promised us to put categories of them, use them unlawfully. Say you have killed. We cited examples of Karamoja. The Honorable will tell us in Teso, I think there was also some things like that. That person will also be tried in the military court. But this person, he or she has a right also to appeal. So, and the rest were just what the Supreme Court said, that the UPDF, even the judges, those military judges, we put a question, do we have chairpersons? Do we have leadership in court? How do you address somebody who is at the bench? So I said, since the Supreme Court guided, these people will also be appointed under the Judicial Service Commission. We, in consultation, I think, with the High Command that looks or supervises the military court. Okay. There were also questions about the military court. Should it be called a court-martial tribunal? But those are nitty-gritties that will come in the bill. But these most important things, where the court-martial should be subordinate to the civil court. And then also those people will sit at the bench, and those court assessors, I'm not very well versed about the court procedure, but they should have some knowledge of the law, and they will put minimum qualification. We looked at the tenure of office. I think the military court-martial had 1 year, but it was not clear how many, and then everybody just comes. So that also should be streamlined. And these were all the recommendations of the Supreme Court. So we simply also cried out to say that, since this bill was before us, let us make sure that this court-martial is not only something, much as it's clinging around discipline, the soldiers and then other people, and we strongly disagreed, like the NUP supporters. That you'll find a group of young, frustrated men trying to cry for justice and arrest them, take to the military court. We said, no, that cannot happen. We have civil courts. So that's the way that I want to bring. This morning somebody called me, said, give us a bite. They said you went to Entebbe and altered the Supreme Court ruling. As the NRM, we have no authority. First of all, the NRM caucus is not parliament, but we only convene, have a conversation as members to have a proper position that we can stand on. But that should be within the benefit of the Constitution and our people.
Okay, thank you. So if you are listening, in summary, this is what was resolved yesterday, what the caucus agreed. One, that misconduct by serving military personnel be tried in the first instance by the military courts-martial with a right of appeal through the civilian courts. That civilians who acquire specific firearms illegally be tried by the military courts-martial in the first instance, again with a right of appeal through the civilian courts. And number three, that a provision be made to provide for rights of appeal from decisions of courts-martial to civilian courts. That was the summary that I think Honorable Hamson shared. Honorable Alice Alaso, just your thoughts in response to what Honorable Kintu has just submitted. But before we go there, there has always been a question that I know you've explained that as a caucus, you need to sit down so that you have a clear position as a party. But we also know that you have the benefit of numbers always, and many times that works to the advantage of the party to actually sway decisions, outcomes of legislative outcomes to the benefit of the ruling party. We've seen that many times, whether it was about term limits or age limit waivers, we've seen that happen. And I think that is what causes a lot of question and suspicion on the part of citizens that, when these people gather, we always know what tends to come out. That's just an observation that I wanted to make from also what I hear and
at least
read.
I wasn't in that. So
thank you. Honorable Alice Alaso.
Well, it's good that Honorable Kintu has given us a briefing of what transpired in the caucus. But I want to highlight the fact that in legislation, in making the law, interpretation is a very, very critical aspect of any piece of legislation. And I can already sense that the catch in this proposed amendment is going to be around the definition of that civilian who is going to be found with arms. That is going to be the catch. And if it is not clear what the ambit of this law is going to be, if it is not going to be categorically stated that it is restricted to serving military officers, in that ambiguous definition, we will still end up with retired army men, framed people, karachunas, anybody can still end up in the court-martial. And that will ultimately or technically defeat the spirit of the Supreme Court ruling. Because what the Supreme Court ultimately did was to say, yes, you could have the court-martial, but let it confine its activities to disciplining soldiers. Yeah? And then let them have a right of appeal in the event that, they are uncomfortable, dissatisfied with the ruling. But now, when you go around and you create a vague definition of who can be dragged to court-martial, you have actually circumvented the ruling of the Supreme Court. And I'd like to beg, fortunately, Honorable Brandon here is a leader in the parliamentary, NRM parliamentary caucus, to really implore you when you are revising this law. One, don't do anything that reenacts the other old court-martial. Because I have since learned, when Dr. Besigye was taken this time round, I have since learned that there were lots of soldiers, many soldiers, for whatever little thing that had been committed, convicted by the court-martial, and without, of course, any right to appeal. And so they were as excited as ordinary, as civilians, about the position of the Supreme Court. They were very happy. And then these people we call the Karachunas. First of all, let it be known that the first time guns were deployed in Karamoja in the 80s, the first time those cattle rustlers spread far and wide from Karamoja, we learned from the floor of parliament. One of the ministers of state told us they are the ones who gave the Karachunas 5,000 guns to defend themselves. It was said it is somewhere in the Hansard, so I'm not saying anything strange. And then the issues around Karamoja. Nobody should be celebrating that the Karachunas are arraigned before the court-martial. You can even find other ways of creating a quicker means, maybe new magistral areas to speedily try the Karachunas within there. Because the Karachuna phenomena is a totally different thing. One, it is our own undoing as a country. You need to know the mineral wealth of that place called Karamoja and how we are not letting the Karamojong benefit. And the only thing we are living with the Karamojong is to try to survive, get a gun, go and steal cows. But from Karamoja comes the cement that feeds this Kampala cement factory. It is brought in a raw form. If you go to Rupa, instead of providing for this, there's a sub-county in Karamoja called Rupa. Instead of providing for the welfare of the people of Rupa, they have fenced Rupa. Now Rupa is like a no-go area. For you to enter that sub-county, the army has to allow you in and the army has to allow you out. In a mineral-rich Karamoja, if we get the fundamentals right about Karamoja, this Karachuna phenomenon which we are celebrating will even stop. So it is an indictment on the government of Uganda that you fail to address the welfare of your own people until they resort to stealing, and then now you address the stealing. Let's get to the fundamental question. And then for you as parliament, I think the other thing is, please, when you're making this law, your good thing, Honorable Brandon, you already stated, please don't make any law with ice. The temptation for that withdrawn amendment, UPDF Amendment Act, to be brought with ice, the likelihood is very, very great that it will come with a view to catch people it already knows. And if you make any law with eyes, they say the lawmaking process should be blind. If you make any law with eyes, the day it turns around, it goes for you. That's when you talked about the way we made the Public Order Management Act. We screamed ourselves hoarse on this side of the house, where they're saying this law is bad. The Honorable Mama Mbabazi was the Prime Minister, and he pushed and pushed. The very thing he pushed got him. And I'm told there was also a thing in the 80s, I think, to do with the Binjira, Gracie Binjira, same thing. So members of parliament should stand warned that any law they make now, you don't know when you fall out of grace with the establishment, or you just do a wrong thing where you need a judicial process that helps you. And then you find yourself with this very law on your neck. You can't move an amendment then. So I plead with honorable members to really focus on that. Let's strengthen the civil courts. What's wrong? Civil courts have trained people. They have a mandate, a constitutional mandate to restrain our liberties, to process us through the judicial systems. So why wouldn't we equip them? Up to now, many magisterial areas are still very incapacitated. They lack the capacity. There's a lot of backlog. Why wouldn't we, instead of wanting to carry these people to the military courts, just empower those magisterial areas? Give them more money, give them more staff, divide some of them into 2 or 3, and they expedite some process.
Thank you, Honorable Alaso. Brandon, I think you've heard what she has said, but I'm also glad that earlier you made it clear that also as members of the ruling party, you are aware that a bad law can actually come back to haunt you at a later time, and you're learning from past experience. But Honorable Alaso raises a very important issue, which I think is what a lot of Ugandans are equally concerned about. We know what ambiguous clauses in the law do and the potential for abuse. In the past, we've seen and heard instances where especially opposition politicians or anyone who is an outspoken critic of the establishment finds themselves at the crosshairs of the establishment. Someone breaks into your house, plants a gun, plants something, and then turns around and says, "Oh, we found a gun in your house." How do you ensure that these provisions are watertight and they cannot be abused, especially when someone wants to settle political scores or take a political advantage over an opponent?
I think that's very important, and we're looking forward to the draft of those amendments. But like you said, yesterday we faced a challenge. The same questions arose from the journalists. But I believe these are the things. I'm privileged that I sit on the Committee of Defense, where it will still come before it goes to the House. I know with the expert of our legal committees and some other competent brains, we interested the Law Council, the Law Society. We have some rich legal brains in this country that have been here from experience that I think can be, because this is a public law. This is something for all Ugandans. And some people are even suggesting now the Honorable Alice here has just made it clear. What we hear from the Karachunas is different from what she says. But I also know that us in politics, sometimes we can stage manage issues. There was a time I wanted to be arrested to win sympathy, but I didn't catch the police's attention to arrest me, but I really wanted to. So some things may happen, but like you ask, we are going to ask, because we need this justification. The owner talks about empowering. I know we have this crime high division something in Kololo that also tries, and we have big figures that have held guns like the Jamil Mukulu, and they are not tried in a court martial. There are some other people that have been via Kony that have not been taken to court martial. So these are suggestions. Like you literally put it, it can also interest me to pop the same question, so that I need to understand the law that I'm going to participate in formulation. And then also, there should be a provision for investigation. Like the last time my chair in one of his addresses was quashing the issue of the police bond. So one of my boys, they fought, they had an argument, they fought. He was arrested, taken to police in Boenge. I called the DPC to find out how can we help. And he said, your boss yesterday said we shouldn't give a bond, so we should effect it immediately. So I told him, did you even sit down and try to analyze? Have you challenged your CID department whether they can speed up the investigation, what sparked of these guys to fight, blah, 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 blah? But you're saying your boss said. So the misinterpretation. So I agree with you. We need to exhaust these clauses to make sure we understand. How do you verify? My car is down there, I'm here. If somebody would just throw a bullet, and probably somebody is trailing me, they find how is that justification? I think it's something not to argue about, because I cannot defend it. I'm not an expert, but I will also question the promoter or the sponsor of this bill, in this case, who is the Minister of Defense, and he is a lawyer and one of the sober lawyers, but it's something to put across.
Okay. And
I've literally noted it.
And just to emphasize to the committee, please, because as you said, this is a public law, the emphasis should also be not in the hurry in enacting it because they want it today, but public participation, because anybody on the streets of Kampala could become a victim of this thing. There are stakeholders out there, so if you could open it up for extensive input, maybe we will be able to enrich your output.
Yeah. So again, the issue of consultativeness, that's also what I had wanted. How consultative is this process going to be? Because we've seen caucus now caucusing twice about the same conversation. Next month, you said monthly, you have monthly caucuses.
Yeah, but the next month we shall now be on budget appropriation.
Yes. But still, those conversations, you never know, it can come up. So is already it looks like the consultation is restricted and limited to NRM. And like I said earlier, you always have the numerical advantage, and that concerns people. Because we've seen the ayes have it always happens. Those in favor say it happens a lot, and then we have laws that come back to haunt people. And even within Parliament itself, you begin to question, how did we pass this? Because the ayes just had it, But besides that, I want to come back to the issue of, before the Supreme Court ruling, this law was already before your committee, right? There was some, you were already scrutinizing. Yes. There are questions about also the structures and the power plays within the military and the dynamics that come with this. You have a commander-in-chief and then a CDF who is the second highest ranking person in the military. We know what transpired in your committee. We know the comments that the CDF has been sharing and posting on his X handle. And, of course, also the utter disrespect that he showed your committee when you had summoned him to actually go and explain some of his posts, and how the words he used to actually call you people idiots and clowns. A committee with the powers of the High Court. Okay, here you are going through a law, an act of the UPDF headed by him. What are you, to what extent do you even think these laws will be respected if you still have a CDF who is like this? Are you also looking at amendments to say, also to provide for conducts of a CDF, that what he can do, and also what powers he should have and what he shouldn't have? Are those conversations you're also having or grappling with, as not just as the Defense Committee, but also as caucus, when you are talking about amending the UPDF Act? Because these are difficult questions that need to be confronted.
At least you would, in the first place, appreciate the Defense Committee, because we've been on record that we wrote to someone. Some other people don't even dare want to speak, mention a name of the CDF, but as a committee, we were concerned. We did our mandate. Literally, you said we have the powers almost like a high court. We pronounced ourselves, we went on record that we have ever written to the CDF. And we did this because we're in the BFP process. So as a commander, and then they came up with the budget, we needed to know, we needed an explanation. But since he did not come, and administratively it was overtaken by the INVET, as a committee we went ahead, because not only for the CDF, but also the serving men and women under him. Our gallant soldiers were working. So we would not starve the work because of an individual statement. And this is an office, I want to assure you that the office of the CDF came, because the deputy CDF and all other directors came and resolved. So I will not go into the discussing his ex-ando, but I think, and this is what I always tell people, that people from the Fourth Estate, the journalists, I think it would be nice to organize a conference as a CDF. You say, come on, we want to ask you questions. Come out and tell us, how is this? Because I know even the spokesperson will tell you, I'm limited, I'll not discuss the social media. But if you, the media, would have a press conference, say the CDF we want to interview, we have been hearing this and this and this, probably would be able to. But we are also, I think, in the process of restructuring or refencing or restricting the Computer Misuse Act, because there are some people who have been charged of reckless statements. So such things will come. But coming to the law, like the Honorable Alice says, yesterday we told the Minister of Defense that we need to do wider considerations. We need to do wider consultations. So people will be consulted. Some people are also asking when. We are not in a hurry because a draft has to be brought, and we will have people. I want to assure, as a committee, we'll have people, and we'll make sure that we put public, because now this is into public, and you people need to help us, because some people think that the NRM went and passed the law. Somebody said, you people, actually there is one of the social media guy wished me and Obua to die, and even told that we shall not finish this term because we have taken civilians to court. It's just right here. So they started circulating. So we need to have proper information for people to understand, and this also alerts us that we should involve in, because this is for the people.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Honorable, just a minute. We're going to take a break. If you could just hold the thoughts for just a minute, and then we'll return and give you them. Welcome back from the break. Glad you're still with us. It is now 5 minutes past 10 o'clock. This is still VPN, and I have with me Honorable Alice Alaso, Secretary General of the ANT, and Honorable Alex Brandon Kintu, Member of Parliament, Kagoma North in Jinja. He's also spokesperson of the NRM Parliamentary Caucus. We're talking about the politics, law, and contestation in Dr. Kizza Besigye's trial. You can also follow this conversation on our audiovisual channel. That's www.kfm.co.ug. My name is Judith Atim. Honorable Alaso, I think the microphone is yours. You wanted to respond to Honorable Kintu's submission to the question that I had earlier posed. You have the mic.
Yeah, first of all, really, I sympathize with not just Honorable Brandon, but the entire Parliament as an institution, because they find themselves in a very awkward situation. Awkward in the sense that the decay of institutions in this country has been very systematic and going on for years. So what you see in a terrorized parliament, in a belittled parliament, in a humiliated parliament, has been an orchestrated thing over years. And until we rediscover institutional strength and institutional mandate and institutional power, that's why the Parliament of Uganda can pass. You know, it's unheard of in history. The Parliament passes the Appropriation Act, and then it is brought back, and they turn around on their own budget estimates, and they begin to give money to things and to places and to causes which are not the primary cause for the ordinary citizens of Uganda. I mean, look at where we are. Can you imagine people are complaining that Trump has taken away money for HIV/AIDS, and for spraying mosquitoes and for condoms and stuff like that. But our parliament tried to reorganize resources, but with a call or with one line of writing, they were made to reorganize the budget. That is how non-functional our parliament as an institution has been rendered. But I also feel very bad because in terms of the politics of the UPDF, when the UPDF Act was passed, the transition, what was it called, from NRA to UPDF, I think I was in Parliament at that time. And the issue then was, even the nomenclature, the name, was to create an army which identified with the people of Uganda, with the mandate of defending Ugandans. Now, when you look at some of the things like the ones happening in NUP headquarters, you ask, what is the army doing here? Is it Konyi here? Is it in defense of Ugandans or whatever? So ultimately, when you follow from the way we observe from outside, we are dealing with a situation where the commander-in-chief and the CDF are probably running the UPDF as a personal army, and the continued personalization of the army portends trouble to this country. It is very, very bad if we run an army, a national army, the way it is being run. And, when the National Army cannot submit itself to the people's representatives just to explain, not even tweets, no, because maybe tweets look so personal, but to explain aspects of the budget. How do we take care of the men and the women in uniform? What is happening about this? And you call the people's representatives idiots. Then you really know that this army, the personalization of the UPDF has reached very disproportionate levels. And I also want to add that, when you talk about the threats to you, threats to judges, threats to the chief whip, that is the anger in this population. Many of you, our leaders, no longer sit in taxis. Some of us, the past leaders, now sit in taxis. And when we sit there is palpable anger in the citizens of Uganda. Let no person be duped that the silence in Ugandans is because they applaud the harassment of fellow Ugandans, the kidnaps, the abductions. No. People are bottling up their anger. They have nowhere to speak. The other day, some few girls, remember the few girls who walked, I think, what was the issue? The ones with the flag, 3 of them. The way the police descended on those girls and grabbed them and locked them up.
The recent Free Besigye protests?
Something.
Yeah.
That was before
corruption.
Besigye.
There was the march to Parliament against corruption like some time back, yes.
And then, only like a week ago, we saw people, I think led by another 2 or 3 members of parliament. They were walking freely in the same city saying that the CDF should not be abused. They just don't even want you to mention his name. Now, let me tell you, there are things that the guns cannot resolve in this country. There are things that can only be dealt with, one, by getting back to basics. This country must be shared by all of us. 2, that you can dialogue with people. 3, revert to the rule of law. If you have issues, revert. I will not be shocked if we wake up and hear that out of the whole night search of NUP headquarters, they have found guns. I will not be shocked because it has happened before. There was a time somebody brought bullets and put in millet. I had just bought millet and the person was putting, and then another soldier came and told me that guy has bullets. So you can see, if it was me, just me buying millet, how much more? So we will not be shocked. But if you govern your citizens like that, the state against the citizens, that is what we are witnessing in this country. I can tell you it is a recipe for instability and for chaos. My prayer to members of parliament is, if you can rediscover your backbones and try, we left a vision there. Are you still called the people-centered parliament or something like that? That is still the thing. Yeah. If you can rediscover that and bring the people, because I can tell you for sure, there will come a day, not because I am wishing bad luck, but I've also shared this when I chatted with the president once. There will come a day President Museveni will not be there. And this country will still continue. Each one of us will be held individually accountable for what we did. Whether it was a bad law, we will have to explain to Ugandans. So I thought I would just add that to what you've said.
Thank you. I just have a question to both of you. We are, of course, talking about the politics, the law, the contestation in Dr. Kizza Besigye, but I think, broadly speaking, beyond Dr. Kizza Besigye, there is, when you look at the conversations that people have in different spaces, whether it's in a kafunda, in a taxi, like you said, on a border, in whatever circle you go to. And I don't know whether it's because we are in a politically charged season, we're heading into another election, or because, again, of the Dr. Kizza Besigye situation, or because of maybe comments by the CDF that we see, or also the fact that we have a president who, by all means, is aging. Everyone sees that. There are questions about the future of this country. Where is this country heading? In the event that, well, I don't want to, let me just find another way of phrasing it. But we are, by all indicators, we're living in very difficult times and a quite precarious political situation. What are your concerns for us as a country, or what fears do you have that you think should actually be addressed, the issues that you think should be addressed head on? Some people think the question of transition should be handled as a matter of urgency. Some say that is actually not an issue. Ugandans are okay the way they are. I would just like to hear your thoughts. If I could start with, should I give her the mic first again? Okay, fine. Honorable.
Thank you. So when I watch what is going on, first of all, with Dr. Kizza Besigye, the bottom line is that it can happen to anybody. Whether you are this side of the divide or you are in the NRM, what Dr. Besigye is being subjected to can easily happen to any one of us, as long as your actions are perceived to be a threat to the continued stay of President Museveni and the possibility of his son taking over from him. You can easily be treated that way. Then secondly, I'm also looking at how far the state can go, pressing its own citizens in order to toe the line. I think the level of intolerance has reached disproportionate levels, and whatever happens now, anybody, I am still trying to understand. I am really trying to understand what is going on in Nup. Part of the allegation I hear, those women, those sisters of mine who ran the Electoral Commission of Nup, I hear part of the things they were being asked in the safe houses were that they were putting on gowns like the ones of the Electoral Commission in Uganda. These things, you go downtown here and you cut a piece of cloth and you design, and you can be arrested for that. So this oppression and intolerance and citizen harassment has reached levels which are very, very bad. And so I strongly believe we are on the brink. We have moved systematically to the edge, and anything can tip us to instability. And unfortunately, that will be the worst undoing of President Museveni's legacy. Because once the country tips, it tips, Honorable Kintu, it will tip with me and you as well, you who is in the NRM. And it will tip with you, me, the Speaker, Honorable Bua, Dr. Chris Barry. All of us are going to go into that brink. And unfortunately, or fortunately, you people still have the opportunity to try to do what is within your means to stop this country from tipping. If you can stand firm and talk and deal away with issues, when people removed the presidential term limits, when they removed the age limits, we kept telling them, you are pushing the country on the edge, find a way of stopping. Unfortunately, people kept going. Now we are there. And this parliament, hopefully, can find its backbone and stop some of these excesses. The militarization of politics. 2026 for me is likely to be the most violent piece of elections that this country has ever seen. With this personalized army, the CDF has already warned us that those who are hoping that they can get power in 2026, that kind of thing is enough. And I passed Naguru the other day. Do you know the military hardware that is in police headquarters? If those military hardwares were turned into ambulances, I think no mother would die giving birth in this country. Hundreds and hundreds of terrifying vehicles. So 2026 is likely, if it ever happens, because some of us also think, spiritually speaking, that it may be a difficult matter. And let me say what I said earlier, the worst. I keep wondering, so what does the president of Uganda want to do? To hang Dr. Besigye? Because that law of treason, the sanction, the ultimate is death or life in prison. Does he really think that they can hang Dr. Besigye or life in prison and then this country stays? It is beyond the ability to handle that level. I can speak as a servant of God. If it ever reached that level, I'll come back here and say exactly the same words. This country will be plunged into complete chaos. So they better retreat from that level.
Honorable Kintu.
All that has been said, but I also, and the Honorable talks about military and politics, but also commercialized politics. If you ask me in a sober way what is the most growing economic activity in Uganda, I will tell you politics. Because at all levels, it's a do or die thing. And some people are making commitments, making other people to have guardianship in politics. You must align so and so. That also brings in the issue of transition. There are some people who think, and that has also killed political parties, even in my own party, where people think we are going into structures of the NRM. But I don't see the chairmanship of my chair being open to space, or the vice chair. People opt for the rest. And if I came up, I want to offer myself to be the chairperson of the NRM, either I'll be given a call, or even the people I'll speak around me, they'll distance. Yeah, I made a joke during the presidential visit. Told one of the colleagues, I asked them, who are the people who are voting into SEC? I told them, I want you to be my voters. And that's, what are you talking about? I want to sit in the SEC, and somebody asked me, are you mad? So before I would even declare...
Mad for aspiring.
Having the ambition. Before I would even tell this person the position I wanted, he questioned me. And since I did not have an answer, I kept quiet. That this already I was stigmatized.
Did you feel afraid?
Actually, I felt offended that my aspiration was not appreciated. When the Right Honorable R.I.P. Olanya died, the NRM opened up space for people to go and express interest in the NRM, to have that card. So I was in the canteen eating, I saw people going. I asked a few people I had, what does it take to aspire? I'd only spent 9 months in Parliament. I told my colleagues, let's go, let me pick my papers, I have an office there. We go, support me. None of them. I walked alone with my driver and maybe a close police bodyguard, and I took my files. But I want to tell you, after Tango Doi asked me, what are you doing here? Have you brought... And in their mind, they thought I'd taken papers for the Right Honorable Kadaga. Because I was one of the SEC in championing on the Right Honorable Kadaga. I told the chair, I am the one. I want to be the speaker. So when I started making calls to my colleagues, because they were fear and aligned to certain people, they didn't pick. They told me, you are going to bring us problems. I stayed alone. I went to the Central Executive Committee alone. So when I reached there, the chair of the SEC asked me, what are you doing here? I told him I want to brand the Parliament, and I think I have a wide experience of 9 months. And it ended there when my Central Executive Committee advised me that, watch, Brandon, you first sit down. We will deal with other serious people. But I gave an opportunity to myself that I wanted to have the ability to serve this Parliament as a speaker. So when I also told this person that I want to sit in SEC, this person asked me, are you mad? But I left that because that will continue.
And at least now you have more than 9 months of experience.
And now that's a very big problem, that we have poverty and making politics an occupation. It's an occupation. There are some serious leaders I saw in the gallery when I was a day student at the university. They are now my colleagues. Luckily, those are NRM, somehow in the part I'm their boss. So this is occupational. and it's commercialized. Somebody will even say, in my tribe there, they'll say, if you cross here, I'll cut you. Recently, we just lost a former colleague of Honorable Alaso, the Dr. Frank Nawiso, and I was very honored that I was trusted to chair the burial committee. But this gentleman, the Honorable, says, you did not have to describe him. He reached a function, even the trees and the flowers, you'll see them frowning. Yeah, a sack of knowledge has arrived. It was very simple. He would stand by his word, but now we cannot, and that's now a political problem. Because in my party, I was aligned to my party bosses. One, not because I could be fully believing in the ideology of the NRM, but I want to get the NRM card so that I win the area, and the NRM party will give me money, and the rest. And this has denied competent leadership, that those that do not have access to money are denied. And these are the best people. You'll find them at the burial. One time I went to a burial. There is a young man. He wants to put me aside. So I listened to him. He had very, very good views in public and what he would want to do for the people of Kagoma. So I brought him closer to have this conversation with him. Probably would empower me to be a good legislator. So monetarization of politics is also a very big problem here. And you will hear conversations of parties saying this party has gone into this, has planted malls, and that's all money. So when you talk about transition, some people will choose to say, we are comfortable where we are. Some people will even ask, who do you think can take that if the other one is not there? So that has become a very serious. There is a mindset problem on adding what the Honorable Alaso mentioned earlier. So we need to come together as a country. When I was living in diaspora, we used to have conversations, and most of the people there would tell you there's no government here. So in those debates, I was like, but what can I do when I go back home? Let me offer myself at a policy level, because I saw by then that the issues and the problem of Uganda was policy formulation. And then the Honorables had made policies very, very good. But how is the implementation process? And that's the challenge that the Honorable is calling us as Parliament. But still it comes to money. You will be threatened. You will not stand as a member of Parliament because probably your superior has money and will tell you, I'll come to your constituency and put another candidate to throw you down. So you'll be crippled. Will you be at any good service? The country not. So we need also to have politics as a service, and that's why I gave reference to the Honorable Besigye in my opening remark. He's giving a service, not looking for anything or for money or anything, but he's giving, like the others. The Honorable Alaso now would be, she served very diligently, leadership, formulation of parties. She would be home saying, let me look at them after all. But she still offers her time to come here and give knowledge to us, and we do benchmark from that. So we need to have that aspect. The moment we have to make politics as an occupation, that's where you look. Some people say, what will you do after politics? Where did you come from? Then you get back. So there are great issues to address. How? I think by really changing. At one time, I asked myself, what if we came up with a review? Because Parliament is very attractive with the salary, with the money on your pay slip. That we say now, members of Parliament, if you add on whatever you do, probably your take-home slip has 4 million shillings. I think that would discourage people from contesting. But now my pay slip, when you look at my range and the range of my mileage of ginger and what, maybe I'll take a take-home of 45 million. When somebody will hear that, to say, I want to have that. But if we would make it a service, I remember, I think Honorable Navis was in the 6th, 7th Parliament. He told me when we had conversation that we never had that. So the money has also attracted people. That legislators, leaders will offer themselves in positions they don't understand the responsibilities. And we, the voters, are also voting wrong people. So we need to look at that, the politics to be a service, but not to be a job.
Thank you. We've actually last week we had a conversation still about the commercialization of politics. I can't actually count how many times we've talked about this on this show. But when I asked you this question, I also, from your response, Honorable Kintu, I also sense that there is a lot of fear also within, as within the party itself as members. There are no-go areas, and you don't have to actually respond to some of this if you don't feel very comfortable talking about them. But it is a sense that anyone gets when you talk about certain issues. And that then concerns me, and it also concerns a lot of people. If you have a party that has the biggest number in the House, but also within the party itself, there's so much fear. The legislators are not comfortable to speak about certain things which are pertinent for nation building, which are pertinent for shaping the trajectory of this country. Then what is the broader or long-term implication of having legislators who are supposed to shape this country but cannot do so out of fear? Where does that take this nation?
First of all, I would just like to encourage colleagues and every Ugandan. Some of these positions people don't offer themselves. It's just a mind that somebody will think that belongs to teams. Those are the people. It also went culture because people here classed us. That Vasogas are this, Vagandas are this, Banyankoles are this. But if we would offer, we have members of parliament in the NRM that stand. At one point they were labeled rebels. Yeah, some of them are still in parliament. Last Saturday I was in Remiaga welcoming the Patriarch, Pope Alexander. They opened a parish in the Orthodox Church. But on the ground, the Honorable Sechukubo enjoys a lot of support. We stayed there 2 days. We wanted to do kind of a best client survey. Now, if we have more of those people who are centered, they are patriotic. You don't need to echo patriotism. If you're patriotic, you stand on your own feet and defend. In any party, we have members of the opposition in parliament. Actually, when you go to our answered in parliament, the biggest legislation part is done by the opposition, and they are given opportunity. Why? Not because they are opposition. And when they get up, you never hear a member of parliament say, on behalf of NUP, on behalf of FDC, these are national issues when we stand. When we are making laws or legislating on national, if you are doing appropriation, government programs, they will stand for Uganda. Now, it should be interested to the other parties as well, that you, the members within the party, if you don't offer yourselves, you're actually making it complex, saying certain positions are not supposed to be contested. Have you offered yourself? Because I've not heard. I think the last I heard was, by then, was the State Minister of Labour or Youth, the Honorable Felix Okoto Gong, when at one time he wanted to be a national chair of the National Resistance Movement. I was just reading, I don't know where it ended. But right now, if you look at the structure formation of the NRM, there are so many new entrants that want to represent regions. Very many, if you look at the social media. Forgetting about the old seniors, people are saying we are offered. Previously, no one would. They would say, Eastern, who can go to Captain Mike Mukula? But now there are about 7. Western Uganda, there are about 8. Central, there are so many. So that people now, we as members, have attracted interest to contest. And I think if it goes like that, then these fears of unknown, sometimes generational. I would look at the Honorable Alaso and say, Honorable is very high respected. She's a very mature person. I don't want to confront her. Now, if I would give myself an opportunity to get closer, I would earn something better than me fearing. So that fear of unknown within the parties. And it's not only, we have also seen big resistance in opposition parties where people think, this one, if this one goes here, that's where I go. You don't tell, I don't need to know the rest. Where Brandon goes is where I go. You don't go with ideology. And then some people think, if a team is not in that section, that's wrong. I think we need to do that, and that will succumb off all the fears within, especially in my part of the NRM.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. It is 10:32, and we're going to take a break. But if you're listening in, I'm going to read our phone lines. Do give us a call when we return from the break. The studio lines are 0393 933 933, 0393 262 933, 0393 262 934. You could also reach us on 0393 266 933, 0701 933 934, 0751933900. But also when you call, I'm also throwing a question at you as you respond to this discussion. I'd also like your thoughts if you're a listener. What do you think are some of those issues that as a country we need to reflect deeply on? If we are to go into a season of soul searching, what should we be searching our souls about as a country? This is VPN. We'll be back. 10:34 a.m. This is Views, People and News, and our phone lines are open to give us a call. We're talking about the politics, law and contestation in Dr. Kizza Besigye's trial, but also broadly looking at the situation we find ourselves in as a country politically. But before we go to the call, Honorable Alaso, I think you wanted to say something. When the calls come in, we shall respond.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to comment on the issues raised by Honorable Kintu. First of all, I think that
we have a caller.
Hello?
Okay. Yes.
Hello?
Hello? Your connection is so bad. We're getting too much feedback.
Hello? Don't mind. Let me see. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, now, I've been observing this thing. There's what they call trend analysis.
Who I'm talking to, please?
Sam Kaizi.
Yes, Sam Kaizi. Kindly proceed, Sam.
Now, I've been seeing what we call trend analysis. I went back to Obote. I'm old enough. I'm 60. Obote came here, tortured people. The people killed me to Baganda. I mean the same. NRM is also, when you see these people disappearing in North, they are majority Baganda. I'm just showing the Baganda. Produce more children. If you are planning to produce 3, have 5. Because this regime is also going to massacre you.
Kaize, okay, thank you for your thoughts. Yes, hello? Yes, Juma?
Number one, I praise humanity in Uganda. Some people have taken these partisans and make them to serve their community or constituency. At the end of the day, they go to parliament, they discuss nothing. They're discussing this code, and then we have issues which are eating us down here on the ground. Number 2, basically, being first arrest or kidnapped from Kenya was about pistol issue. Then recently, here Museveni is launching a pistol factory here in Uganda. There is 10,000 marks. Museveni has to be investigated. Impunity is too much. Thank you.
Hello?
SKFM.
Yes. Good morning, man. Who I'm talking to?
This is Simon Peter.
Yes,
Honorable Kintu, I salute you. Honorable Alaso, I salute you too. Now, my contribution is going to be in 2 forms relating to Besigye's arrest. Number 1, Mr. Besigye was among the members of CA, that was 1990. Those are the members who drafted and constituted our constitution. So I think these are the repercussions of what they constituted and what they drafted. So us as peasants or lower people, that is not our major concern. Our major concern goes back to our parliamentarians or our legislators. The issues of national importance, those are just individual matters. Besigye was once a warrior. So let him deal with his fellow warriors. That is number 1. Number 2, this is relating monetization of politics in our country. Now, I'm not trying to launch any stinging attack on NUP and the opposition. Now, the good example is Mao is now the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. One time, he was...
Simon, I want you to follow a particular train of thought and just be particular about your question, please.
I'm summarizing how these people sometimes do confuse us. Now, he's serving the current regime, which he used to ridicule, he's serving. You see? To me, those are not the issues of the national interest. So otherwise, I thank you for your service.
Okay. I don't know if we have another caller. Stephen, do we have another caller? Oh, okay, fine. I think we can stop here for now. Sam says Obote tortured people. Amin did the same, and we are seeing NRM doing the same. And the people bearing the biggest brunt of this are the Baganda. Juma says MPs are not discussing serious issues. We are having a lot of impunity which should be addressed. And Simon, I think, alludes to saying something about bad policies that are drafted in the past and how they come back to haunt people later on. I'd just like, we have another caller. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, please. Yes, thank you.
It's Andrew.
Yes?
Kampala here.
Who is this?
Andrew from
yes,
Kampala.
Andrew, please. Thank you very much. Kindly proceed.
You're welcome. Now, I would like to thank you all for the submission you have made. I want to just make a brief comment. You told us to talk about...
There's some feedback, eh? And Andrew, if you could step off from your receiver, please. We're getting too much feedback.
Better? Is it better?
Move a little further.
Is it better now?
Slightly.
Okay. It's better now? Yeah? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Proceed.
Okay. Yes. I think that on top of everything that Honorable Alaso and Honorable Kintu have said, I get one thing. I get that the quality of the leaders that we have is a very poor quality of leaders, especially the ones we have in Parliament. And the problem is that sometimes we can't know who would be a good leader and who would be a problematic leader. So I think that for us as the voters and also the government, we must ensure that there is a criteria which leaders should follow. For example, if a leader does not do what they're supposed to, if a leader does not deliver, a member of parliament like Honorable Alaso fails to deliver. I'm not saying, Honorable, you're not delivering. You are doing your best. But, for example, someone who fails to deliver to their expectations must be a criteria that we must put in place to remove them from leadership and put in somebody else before their term ends. Because by the time they finish 5 years, first, the country will be in quagmire. So I think that would help us. Because sometimes we vote these people and they just come and do manyang. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think let's now stop there. Andrew is decrying the quality of leaders that we have, especially at Parliament. Currently says they're very poor, but also is calling on voters to be critical of the individuals they choose to elect them. Honourable, I think let's just respond to the comments that have come through.
First, let me comment on what Andrew is saying. The leadership crisis we face as a country has been a deliberate work, especially by the people, President Museveni and his team. That parliament you're talking about, I interact with them. I have followed analysis. That is the most educated parliament Uganda has had. This parliament here, this parliament that is keeping quiet, I don't know how many PhDs are there. The average qualification in that parliament is a master's degree. A majority of them have
some PhD holders as well.
I've talked about the PhDs. There are many in that house. So the problem, what rules that parliament is fear. And if, however educated they are, if they don't get rid of fear, they can never speak for this country. That is what rules that parliament. So it's not qualifications. It's not education levels. It is fear and intimidation and perhaps a degree of selfishness. If I speak, they will throw me out of my constituency. Let me sit here and continue. That personal survival. But otherwise, these guys are very educated. You see them there. But I particularly want to respond to Simon Peter. I think Simon Peter is talking on the basis of lack of knowledge. He blames Dr. Besigye for being part of the CA, Constituent Assembly, that made the Constitution, which is true. But why should he blame him when they made a provision in the Constitution that addresses means by which your personal liberties can be taken away. I don't know what article that is, either 23 or something. I have no constitution here. But it simply says your personal liberties cannot be taken away except by a competent court order. And so when Dr. Besigye's liberties are just taken away because somebody in court martial has decided to lock him up, even the Supreme Court, again, that constitution provides for the Supreme Court to interpret all matters of constitutionality, has given ruling, given orders, and says, get those people out. You are holding them in a very unconstitutional institution. And so you can't blame him. He already took care of that. And let me emphasize to Simon Peter, when you hear people agitating that due process and a free fair trial and the law be followed in dealing with whatever allegation anybody has against Dr. Besigye, that is a universal principle. The day you are rounded up in the streets of Kampala and taken to Buganda Road, you would want a free, fair trial and due process for whatever you have done. And there are people, there is a body, the judiciary, that has been given that constitutional mandate. So all we are saying is follow the law, follow due process, and charge any one of us the way you want, whatever complaints you have. I don't know whether I can comment on... there were issues my brother Brandon raised.
Yeah, please proceed.
Yeah, I could also comment on, when you look at the issues going on in political parties, because that's my segment, we are a very weakened institutions. I think that because of the president's desire to rule forever, he has focused a lot of his energies in ensuring that this return to the multi-party dispensation, which we so much wanted, does not bring the right dividend. So we have very weak, intimidated political parties. Tell me, even UP wanted to sell cards now in the streets of Kampala, would they last 1 minute? They will be dispersed. Even UP now began inviting people, come to our headquarters. Today we have a Saturday meeting. Inside the walls, they would be dispersed. So it's been deliberate to weaken. Unfortunately, by weakening political parties, we are making this country very vulnerable because there is no alternative leadership. It's not emerging. The political parties are not growing alternative leadership. And in the NRM, Honorable Brandon, even you people, we cannot see the next president except maybe the tweeting general. And really, because you spent all the time concentrating on don't touch President Museveni, the Okotogongs who dared. You see, Okotogong is one of the most brilliant chaps in the politics of this country. He's a very brilliant guy, very enterprising guy. But how come, when now they appoint ministers, he's been sidelined? I mean, at least we read that from what is going on. So the constant in this country for the last 40 years, we have changed ministers, we've changed the IGPs, we've changed the CDFs, we have changed the speakers of parliament. Let Uganda have an opportunity to try changing a president. Even if it is another person from the NRM, we are not scared. You look at what happens in Tanzania and how they are progressing. Tanzania, every other change is CCM. But CCM will give you a Jakaya Kikwete today, give you Magufuli tomorrow, give you Suluhu, give you another one and another one. And their country is very stable and it is moving on. Even our neighbors in Kenya, with all the chaos that goes on there, they change. This constant, this life presidency is easily one of the biggest threats to the stability of this country.
Thank you, Honorable Alaso. Honorable Kintu, what do you have to say? Just from what do you agree? Do you not? Do you have an addition or a subtraction?
No. The Honorable has clearly put it right, because we all live in this country. We see what is happening. But also, I think we have not really understood how multi-party politics works here in Uganda. Like I told you, people will geographically cluster. Say in Uganda, like now they say in Uganda, if you're an NRM, you cannot win. Yesterday, I shared with some young lady. She wants to contest to be a city councillor. So I told her, how is the dynamics there? She told me, my father is a branch DP chairperson, so I'll come on the DP ticket. And then I asked her, why not NUP or NRM? She said, no, NUP and NRM, it's not there, it's DP. So she wants to be a city councillor with already a mind of subscribing to the DP, because DP will give a ticket and then she gets the council. Now, we also tend, if, save now for Honorable Alaso, she's very, very sober, but if there's a young, vibrant opposition person and say, hey, let's join in the car, we go with, Brandon, I can't be with you, you are NRM. They will think I've joined the NRM. So you see, the whole idea we don't understand. The Honorable tells about Kenya. These guys are always coming in alliances. Do we have alliances here? Can it be possible? The last time the gentleman, the very elegant citizen we are talking about, was pulled from TDA in Agulu when the Mbabas and the rest were there. So we cannot also, no, we are clustered. In my party, some of us would say, no one touches Museveni. Now we are going into elections. We've been moving. I saw a T-shirt. There is this saying, and people had written on it, Museveni awoma paka last. Somebody will say, YK chini cha ulinzi. They will not even look at any other person. So us in NRM, all our spirits and sentiments and beliefs are vested in my chair. And we all say, this is the only one. We cannot have a competent leader. And when you see we are addressing, like look at these NUP supporters. Sometimes when I'm ready, a caller calls, and so and my president is His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. That's His Excellency. And that mind is there. So for you to commit to another political party, when people move from parties to another party, that one is a mole, that one is a traitor, that one is not true an opposition. So we need to all understand. Equally to us, NRM. The other day we have just gotten 2 new members, the Honorable Antona Cole and the other Honorable, the name has skipped up, but they are all from the northern Uganda, which used to be a great hub of the opposition. But some of their former colleagues in opposition, instead of congratulating, simply stood before the microphone, started dishing these people.
No, we can't congratulate Laws, Honorable. We feel bad.
They started dishing them, but I have a right. If tomorrow, if the Honorable Alaso gave me a manifesto of ANT, and I feel that 2026 I go to ANT because now I still hold the NRM card, I will go. But then I expect to be welcomed that side and not be condemned this side. So we need to understand how multi-party politics works here in Uganda.
So there's just a comment that has come through my inbox here. There's also a generation that is using social media irresponsibly for both the ruling party and opposition. Just this week, there have been lots of videos online of young people purported of belonging to the NUP and NRM, and some were calling for attacks on each other, violent attacks at that. We're in a season that is likely to be one of more tension. So what is the input of political leaders, cultural leaders, etc. at a time like this? Like Martin Niemöller put it in his poem, first they came and I didn't speak out. We need to understand that it can be through verbal words, arrests, trials, or physical attacks against each other. And this is not healthy in a political season. The kind of language young people are using, and also the kind of language that some leaders are using, are do not give us a good impression of where we're going. We're just 7 minutes away from 11, actually 6 minutes, and I think we need to actually be winding up. So I'll just give you each opportunities to actually give us your final comments or thoughts in regard to our conversation today.
So I think I appreciate that comment. It's a very important comment. That even those of us who are advocating for and pushing for change in this country, we would very much want a stable transition. We do not in any way want a situation where President Museveni leaves us with no country. We want Kampala to stay. And so that is why we keep appealing first to the president himself and even to the CDF. The CDF, my appeal to the CDF is to stop tweeting in a way that it infuriates people, so that whoever takes over this country still finds a country to lead. We have seen countries go in tatters when the mighty Bashir, now under house arrest, wherever he is, I don't know. He's gone, but there is no more Sudan. The Sudanese are everywhere in tatters. You see, we have within our power, those of us in opposition, and especially those of you in the NRM, Honorable Kintu, and your team, and this parliament, you have within your power the ability to create a stabilizing situation for this country, so that when the transition, because there will be transition anyway, we want it or we don't want it, there will be transition. When it happens, shall we still find a country? Are we breeding a population that is too angry? I am just vending things here, selling my mangoes, and then a whole van is running after me. I am trying to make ends meet. Sometimes the behavior of KCCA people is also very annoying. You should develop this city in such a way that even the poor have a place in the city. But for you to round us up, yesterday found they had rounded up, I don't know how many women in their pickups, women of mangoes, a capital of 10,000 shillings, and you spend your time rounding them up and, grabbing them and taking them. Let me tell you, what we do now determines how we will transit. Those young people, if we don't address their issues of jobs and employment, or even their human rights, the ones you're keeping there, missing persons, have relatives out here who want them. So you think by grabbing one, you are solving the problem. You are not. You are exacerbating the problem. So I want to agree with that person, and that probably even makes my concluding remarks. Thanking you for giving me this opportunity and praying that people, let me urge Ugandans to pray for Uganda. Just pray for Uganda. Don't spend time. There are people in this country who prayed for, and they don't want God to use them to bring stability. So just pray for Uganda, that will still have our country no matter what happens.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Alaso. Honorable Kintu, your passing shots.
I'll just make an appeal that every after 5 years we're going to elections. Soon next year, this year, we're into electoral process. Let us participate. Let us exercise our mandate. But I'd like also to have people to restore peace, confidence, and hope within our institutions. Let us build them. This is our country, this is our generation. But I would like also to thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to have a platform with the Honorable Alaso. Like I told you, Women in Action, she's still a brand, and she will stay brand. Whether she has an elective position, she's always there. So it's always a pleasure that I have had this discussion. I'll have a beautiful weekend.
Thank you. Thank you very much to both of you, Honorable Alice Alaso and Honorable Alex Brandon Kintu, for making time and being a part of this discussion on the politics, law, and contestation in Dr. Kizza Besigye's trial. My name is Judith Atim, and thank you very much to all of you who've listened in, and to those of you who called us and give your contributions to this show. This is VPN. VPN returns next Saturday, same time. Until then, have yourselves a wonderful weekend.